invite you. And you have a presentation that should be loaded. And I will not take the liberty of introducing everyone. The bios are there with everyone, but Eric has had many different hats and roles in the past. So please do, as you come up, just share a line or two as you see fit with any relevant background of yourselves that would be of importance for the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. And the only relevant background that I'd share about myself is that you might wonder why I'm standing on an advanced metering panel since I'm not in that business anymore. So I'm here as somebody who has spent 20 years in that business and has now moved on to something adjacent. But as I left the business, I remembered that I forgot one thing.
Okay.
So what do we know about the state of affairs? So maybe this is the three-year question, Raul, that you gave. I think the value proposition around advanced metering now is quite well proven. There are tools and formulas. The answer may be different for different utilities, but we know how to do that math. We know that the technology that's available works at scale. I was in the business when people wondered, would it even work? Would it last more than a year? Would it melt the first time the rains came? And we know that that has now been proven. We also know what winning technology approaches are, and I mean that not in a vendor sense of vendor A versus vendor B, but there are technology solutions and architectures that have been tried that have been proven to fail. And there are many models that have been tried and proven to win, and those are now well known. And then finally, I would say here in India and around the world, we are increasingly getting to the point where there is good regulatory support, if not perfect regulatory understanding of the value of this technology, not just for grid operators, but for consumers. So that's all good. But I believe that largely, if we look across the global landscape, we've forgotten one thing. It's a small problem called the customer. The vast majority of smart meter deployments that go out today are delivered with only indirect or infrastructure-related benefits. Now, to be clear, there's value to the consumer. When PG&E restores power after an earthquake in 1/10 the time that it used to take them, if you're a consumer living in that area, that AMI system that enabled it gave you value. But that value isn't terribly important, or terribly visible, excuse me, to you. And I would argue that this lack of an apparent customer benefit from most of the AMI deployments that have gone out is happening just at the time when consumers and consumer expectations of what good customer service looks like are changing rapidly. So as we think about consumers, who's setting their expectations? As much as we value our utility friends and partners here on the dais and around the world, the fact of the matter is that you are not the trendsetter in customer expectations. Amazon, Apple, Google, Netflix, even big old boring industrial companies like UPS are innovating on customer service at a pace much more rapidly than most utilities around the world are. Without doing any sign up or having to visit a website or make a phone call, if I have a package being delivered to my house, UPS tells me that I should expect one, what time it's going to come. They send me a text or an email to confirm that it has arrived. And at least in the States now, they accompany that with a photograph of the package sitting on my doorstep so that I can see it sitting there. So the customer has an expectation for what good customer service and good customer self-service looks like that's being driven from well outside the utility world. So I won't read through this, but we see this reflected in the research that is done asking utility consumers what their expectations are. 75% of consumers believe that they want to do it through self-service. They don't want to talk to you. They just want to push a button and go. They will manage 85% of their relationships within enterprise utilities and others without ever talking to a human being. You might think of this as the Uberizing of the energy experience. So what are the recommendations? And maybe this ties in a bit to the 3-year forward, 3-year back view. is how do we step away from what we know technologically or operationally within the utility world and really start with that customer journey? How do we modernize the experience and use this technology not as an end in itself, but as a means to achieving an end of substantially better customer service? And is it even possible, so this will be my parting shot, is it possible that we could use customer engagement as a way to actually generate excitement about smart meters? For those of you that have followed deployments around the world, you know that you're more likely to get resistance than a request for a smart meter. People wonder, are they spying on me? Will the RF melt my brain? Now they'll find my theft, whatever it is. But I believe, and there is evidence from projects around the world, that proactive customer engagement and using the technology to create new service offerings and new tools actually gets to the point, and if you talk to the people at Exelon Utilities in Chicago, they had people calling saying, when am I going to get my smart meter? And I think that's a real change from where we were 3 years ago. And with that, we'll turn it off to the next.